Today, we talk about the power of the self. 4 very simple letters that boggle humanity. SELF, the self. It's not hard. You are a unique individual. You were born independently of any other entity. You may be a twin, that doesn't make a difference, for you are a unique individual with your own organs and functioning. So we dive into that conversation today, and not only do we tap on the power of the self, we look at that from an empathic standpoint, a narcissistic standpoint. We dive into loneliness that surrounds this conversation. We dive into layers of abuse that influence the self being the self versus the self being other. The self following fashion, as we would call it in Jamaica. You love follow fashion. You too follow, yeah? Clout is also attached to that conversation, but not only that, we're going to link that to Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the purpose and desire for those that are spiritually awakened to move towards self-actualisation. That's important. But not only that, we're going to dive into the second law, the force, yeah, mass acceleration, that is a premeditator of how one can actually actualise, yeah? To close or to link in across the board in this conversation today, we'll dive into the ideologies of game theory, yeah? Is this a simulation? We all should be aware that we have been classically conditioned. The psyop is a real thing. We can look at psyops and classical conditioning as 2 separate components, but when we strip them back and we look at the mechanics of the psyche, consciousness overall, we can see that there are layers across our existence that create these systematic structures that help us meet milestones and success criteria that scream humanity is thriving here. We are flourishing, we are doing well. Money, a social construct, the economy, our lives, the work-life balance, the need to work, to receive money, to then provide and give back to the ecosystem you come from, to nourish the community that you live in. It all takes an awareness of self and you devoting your body, your mind and your soul to something that brings a return. A return on investment, a return on mental health, a return on well-being, a return on love, a return on relationships. There are returns on all things in this reality. And one of the earliest things that we get taught in spirituality when you first start seeing 1111 and you step into this dimension, it's never expect a return, never expect a return, never expect a return. Give from a place where you don't need anything back. Because there is nothing worse than when someone buys you a gift, but they buy you that gift because they then expect you to buy them a gift back on their birthday. They bought you a Christmas present, so they expect you to buy them a Christmas present. They do this for you and they expect something back from you. A lot of people give with an expectation of a return. That's the unhealthy side of the situation, right? That's the narcissistic control and the gaslighting and the layers we'll dive in and out of today really lightly. We're not doing a big narcissistic piece today, but we're going to get there eventually, I'm sure. But when we speak about narcissism today, we'll talk about the higher qualities of control and manipulation. And the self is really, really important in narcissism because that comes from the ideology that only I matter. I only see me in this reality. I am the dominant here and everybody else must just somewhat fall into my paradigm of existence. But I actually don't care about anyone but me, even if I present externally like I love you and I give to all of these people and all these vibrations. The true self has no congruency with the other entities on this planet, right? It's a really horrible, internalized, lonely space that you would never outrightly see because a lot of these narcissistic traits and qualities are seen as covert or not. People are not educated enough about them to understand how these psychological trappings show up in absolutely everyone across the planet, because we talk a lot about spectrum the spectrum of monotropism, but spectrum disorders, the vast difference between a psychic acceptance in society versus a psychotic individual's existence here, So we'll link that also with the empath, which is really beautiful because we've got a lot of super empaths rising up at this time as well. It's really nice. There's a real shift in humanity during this, what I can only describe as New World Order restructuring of Earth at this time, from a real psychological paradigm based on modern theory. If we want to call on George Ritzer a little bit and some of his classical work, then we could pin a lot of the stuff going on in today's society around that. And that's the more and more empathic. Once again, this channel will be really pushing for that left and right on the spectrum from a psychological psychosocial standpoint. So once again, let's put the super empath all the way down there at the far left, and then we'll put the narcissist all the way down there on the far right, and we'll have two really strong characteristics of difference here today. And it's really, really important because remember, we all exist and move with fluidity, so at any given moment we can amp up the qualities that would lead us towards the left or the right? Those derivatives, those variables, that rate of change, that rate of evolution. You could go through trauma, abuse, and you could turn around and be totally transformed and know, I'm going to live in a tree for the next 4 years and just hum in silence. I'm going to a silent tree, changing my life around. You go left, super left, right? And then on the to a certain degree. And then on the right, you can go, no, fuck it. I'm livid, I'm enraged, I've had enough of this planet. I'm going to plot to kill. Far right, yeah? These are just examples of the left and the right. We're not talking specifically about the war-torn fragments of far left and far right from any specific context today. So let's not try and get lost into those specific ideologies, because there is real war and there is real terrorism, but they're not tethered to any scopes I bring today. I'm just pinning points on a conversation we're having, okay? So on that note, let's dive in quickly to loneliness a little bit. I think would be nice, because what I love most about loneliness, right, is the transcendence you go through if you are willing to open up to it. And loneliness is the most beautiful defining factor of a human being. Can you be alone? It tells you everything. It tells me everything I need to know about a human being, right? About a person, really, really. Do you know loneliness? Have you felt loneliness? Can you sit in loneliness? And can you take that vibration of loneliness and transform it into the power of being alone? Can you do that? Yeah? Because that's when you see real progress and evolution in the self. The self is everything. The self is everything, right? Everything we establish at Hermitology and everything we really believe in is grounded in selfhood and identity. Comes in the classical works of Cathy Woodward, right? Loads of books. She provides loads of academic books, yeah, a real educator on selfhood and identity. I'm a big fan of all of her works on individual differences and culture and change, and a lot of the ideologies on the left that present really strongly today, they can be found coming more and more up to a centrist point and beyond towards the far right in retaliation or rebuttal against the what we see as narcissistic, maybe, or the leader, the rich, the control, the capitalist, just anything in polarity to what that unique individual thinks on the left. Because once again, I don't want to ground it to something specific, but we've got to pin this here somehow, right? So the best way is to really go, hold on, you see that unique individual, they have a unique perception, and from what they believe is the epitome of wholeness and oneness and expertise and greatness and love and light and healing and the epitome of one, the greatest person that could ever exist here, there's the polarity to the worst motherfucker on the planet that we cannot stand, right? But what that looks like is unique to every single individual. People that I dislike or don't want to associate with, they carry characteristics and traits that I've tried to rid myself of, that I'm uncomfortable with, that I've had past traumatic responses with, that I don't believe in, that are against my morals, and my integrity. So I move away. It's not aligned to my moral compass, that direction or that entity, so I swerve it. That's okay. But this is where the power of the self gets brought into question, incredibly, because there's a high population that would rather not be lonely. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to hear my thoughts. I don't want to sit with myself. I don't want to understand what's going on with me. So I choose to have a partner. I choose to go out every night. I choose to surround myself with people that are maybe not even the best people for me, but at least I'm not alone with the self. And that hurts me. Because, that's been something empathically that's been a real painful observation I've made. It makes me upset because I'm a fighter for the self. And I believe in self-actualisation, and I hold Maslow's needs of hierarchy up high, going, right, we're going to push for that self-actualisation. What more does my chakras need? What more does my crown chakra need to be the best version of self here today? But when I see other entities going, I don't want to do that inner work, I don't want to find me, I'm like, oh, for goodness sake, it's destabilizing, because I go, well, you're never gonna find you in this lifetime if you don't choose to do that. And that's because I'm on the other side. I'm doing the work. The work's hard, because it's taken a real window of time to get through that phase of loneliness and pull up at being alone and go, fuck, this is heaven here. This is what I deserve. This is what it means to really be self-assured and sit with the self and be alone and be present in your aloneness without it being lonely. I don't need to fill the space with anybody for clout. People stay in abusive relationships because they don't want to be alone. People stay in cheating relationships because they don't want to be alone. Because the fear of being alone is too much to bear. And that is the conversation we're going to pin there today. The fear of being alone is too much to bear. Can you imagine that? What has happened in society? What is going on with humanity that being alone is so horrifying that you would rather be abused, you would rather get drunk, you would rather hang around with people that take the piss out of you, laugh at you, take your money, have you drunk and high and wasted every night, people that talk to you like shit, you'll tolerate less, you'll put your morals down, you'll reduce your levels of integrity, you'll settle for less in all areas of life just so you don't have to be alone with the self. Come on, humanity. What does that say about classical conditioning? And what does it say about non-playable characters in reality when I speak about that? A lot of NPC conversations, non-playable characters. If you are choosing not to tap into the self, you are choosing to not play in this game theory that is life. This is a simulation. Whether or not we amp it up to game level and digital monologues in conversation, we can hone in very simply on the ideology that we are all playing a character in this lifetime. All the world is a stage and we are merely actors. We all have our entrances and our exits. Shakespeare was not incorrect about that, not remotely. We're all here playing a role. And a lot of us wake up in the morning, have a certain style of life, view, thought, feeling, run it, and then leave and then code switch to conform to a different narrative that is more suitable for what humanity demands. That is the classical condition that is required of you. Because we actually are going to need that salivating Pavlov vibration from you. Meaning that dribbling dog in classical conditioning. That theory of when that bell goes, the dog's mouth starts dribbling immediately because they know that's a signifier for food, So when you show up at work and you say, morning everyone, we're going to do this today, how are we? That's you switching on that bell for others, or that's you beginning to dribble because you know by the end of the month you're going to get a check for that. You need that money. You're going to get a salary for that conditioned behaviour that we like to see that's in your job description. Yeah? The job specification, the requirements of you to be here look like this. Please conform. Thank you. And that's life. I'm bringing this up today, which is a really leftist ideology, but that's life. So let's take it all the way to the right and ground it in the fact that we need stability and systems on this planet for all of us to function and flourish. For otherwise, what is humanity without any guardrails? What is life without any guardrails? We need something, right? The right have a point in regards to wanting strong systems and wanting controls, because without it, we have war and terrorism, which we already do have. But even more so, look at what happens when we put someone like Trump in the White House who decides to go balls to the walls away from the status quo and the way that things are done. You create mass destabilization, right? And that's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And that's why it's important for us to always look at the skewed perspectives, the quantiles of the left and right, and try and hone it into a more centrist or centralized perspective. I don't want to hone too heavily on the centrist because we don't even need to create that label, for there are so many other derivatives beyond the medium split. Yeah? There's a whole spectrum here. We're not going to hone in on the centre or the left and the right as the epitome of correctness. But we still need a moment or two to establish where we are at. It's always really powerful to go, right, this is humanity, this is reality, this is the spectrum, and I am here. That's all we really need to be presenting with moving forward, I feel. I feel it creates much more of a healing, conscious, self-aware vibration, and it allows people to go, okay, in relation to him, her, them, they, this environment, that ecosystem, this world, I'm here on the spectrum and they're there on the spectrum. That's why we're different. Yeah? I'm on the far left, they're on the far right. That's why we bounce back and forth. That's why we don't get on. That's why we disagree. That's okay. The sun and the moon are at far left and far right. Do you get what I mean? And they just pass each other by every single night and day. Moving on. Yeah? It's life. It's how it works. So it's about understanding those ideologies and understanding that force, yeah? There is this force. I love the second law, throwing in Newton's second law here, because it is about mass acceleration. And that is from multiple perspectives, but let's pin this one for fun. Every single one of your chakras, I always talk about the percentile of your chakras, the percentage of your chakras. If we take all your chakras, right, and they're working at optimal health, then you're going to have a force, chi, energy, vibration that is at a much larger acceleration, yeah? The mass acceleration of your chakras when you are in high prana state and you're doing amazingly well in life and you're truly aligned to your nervous system and you're at one, mindful, beautiful, well-being, life, ecological well-being, human flourishing, beautiful. But what about the fact that you are struggling financially? So your root chakra's unstable, right, to a certain degree. You lost 10% of your root chakra because you're financially struggling this month, right? You are not accepting some really deep-rooted in a child trauma, so your sacral's off by 25% as well. Damn, we're losing force, right? We're reducing the level of mass, so the acceleration is going to be less, and we're still trying to assess what the force is going to be by the end of this, because we've still got to talk about the solar plexus. How confident are you right now? Not only that, how's your heart chakra getting on? You're in a breakup, you're in a toxic relationship, you've been cheated on again, you've been lied to, you've been devalued, you've been demoralised. 50% taken off your heart chakra because you're going through heartbreak. Cheated on again. So you've already lost a high level of really, really important mass for your productivity, wellness, human flourishing. Yeah, higher levels of ecological well-being. How the fuck are you going to self-actualize with those all in deficit? Yeah, Throat chakra, can't talk about your issues anymore now. The more we go up the chakra line, it gets harder and harder, because if you haven't got a strong foundation and the root chakra's off, you're going to be sure that it's going to continue to evolve that way, right? The foolish man built his house upon the sand, yeah? What does that really fucking mean? So many people out here are building lives, realities, existence based on what? Based on clout, someone else's ideology of purpose and meaning, or based on a relationship because it gives them something to work towards, but it takes away from the self, because certain people in relationships, and I always talk about the standard housewife narrative, where it's the ideology of I stay at home and be a housewife, and all I do is cater to my husband, and I only see my husband for a few hours in the evening, and when I make his breakfast in the morning, and then he's gone all day and he's busy on weekends, but that's how it is. And then the rest of the time I'm just at the house, just kind of doing stuff. But he gives me a monthly allowance, so that's that. And then your life becomes a specific kind of output. So your chakras start working at that ratio over and over again. And for some people, that's a beautiful life. You've seen Desperate Housewives, my God. You've seen Real Housewives of Atlanta, Dubai, whatever, all of it. There's mayhem everywhere. Live the way you want to live, people. But understand these different layerings and the different level of dedication that you bring to the self through working on yourself and setting higher standards for what you want in relationships, yeah? Like, this is what I always think about in relationships to the self. When we think about the self, we've got to think about relationships as well, which is really important, because you get into a relationship and you've got to give away a percentile. A high percentile of yourself to that relationship. There's sacrifices that you're going to have to make. There's things that are going to change. You're going to pick up little traits and similarities. So you've got to want or desire to merge your life with someone else to a certain degree. And once again, in the example I've given you, that may result in merging your life with someone to the point where you just have this role and this persona that you are deeply in love, and it's amazing. But there's a lot of women, in my opinion, that will be sitting at home all day with nothing to do while their husband or wife is out making all the money and they're at home. They could be looking after the kids at home or have no kids and just be at home, supposed to be living on coffees and brunches and ideologies of richness and wealth. Oh, life's great. But you haven't really spent time with your husband or wife in months or years, because they're never around, because they're always working. And that's where the cheating stems, and that's where the relationship discrepancies come from, and that's where you're undermined in a relationship, and that's when you're not even, in my opinion, really seen as a spouse. You're just seen as a buffer, a piece, a condition, yeah? You're somewhat of a psyop. And I know that when we talk about psyops, that's the psychological operation, isn't it? And often drawn towards more of a military operation. But for me, any psychological operation that's systematically ingrained into humanity, which is indeed get married. I'm not against marriage. I stand for marriage. But in that same breath, I go, okay, but a conformist ideology of marriage where you just cook at home as the woman and the husband goes and makes all the money, in this economy, that's trash. That's absolute trash, because, to be honest with you, I like the ideology of mum talk here. The Mormon wives, the Mormon sister wives, or whatever it's called on Disney. Great example, because every single one of them on Mum Talk became quite famous, went viral, have a lot of money, make more money than their husbands. And there's had to be a dynamic shift on the show, in reality, about Mormons, but about what it means for the woman to be the breadwinner in the situation, and how that shifts dynamics in relationships. Who looks after the kids? Who does this or that? And how much power do we give to the woman or the man or the relationship? And there's all of these layers of abuse, financial control, yeah? Oh, or I'll marry for money, even more so. I'll do this in the relationship because it will make them happy, but it's not really what I want. We haven't even spent time together. We don't even really know each other at the core, yeah? But that comes from knowing the self first. Who are you? Why are you here? What is your purpose? What brings you meaning? What do you love about you? What do you hate about you? What is your superpower? Your superpower, because you need to be able to go on a journey where you can find your superpower and you can utilize it. That could be a 1-hour journey in meditation. That could be a 20-year journey in life. That could be a trip, a gap year, a vacation. That could be a relationship, a toxic one at that, a healthy one. Life at full stop is a journey. This is a game, yeah? What is your theory on this game called life? And in what way are you testing this theory out? Yeah? Because we theorize all the time. We think. Yeah? So it's about turning that thinking into action. Actualizing that. So what is your theory? Who are you and how do you work and why are you here? What is your purpose? Why do you do what you do? Are you religious? What is your religion? Write in the comments. And why is that your religion? Were you born into that religion? Did that religion evolve for you over time? I wasn't born with Hinduism as a significant religion in my life, but it's evolved to be. Yeah, Judaism also quite significant in some regards. Jesus, Christianity, growing up with that's still a massive influence in my life as well. But the way that I embrace chakras and a lot of reincarnation ideologies, deities, mantras, Kalima, Hanuman, Krishna. Very important. That's a unique development. That's me finding my soul song. That's a healing vibration for me. That's where I can feel safe and true, and it just fills me with purpose. Like I see me in those frames, you know? The safety blanket I get from understanding reincarnation, the safety blanket I get from knowing that Kalima is present in my existence, the safety I get from knowing Hanuman is close by if I need him, yeah? Ganesh, Shiva, Krishna, yeah? Deities, archangels, spirit guides, passed on loved ones from the other side. We can go all day. But that comes from being empathic. That comes from being open and understanding to how I feel at a more intuitive level. That's understanding the layers to the self. Yeah? Those chakras again. Yeah? That internal compass is the chakras. The nervous system. The chakras are aligned to the nervous system. So the butterflies in the stomach, and the ungrounded nature and the pins and needles in the feet, or the pelvic pain, the lower back pain, the weight of the world feeling on your shoulders, literally at times, right? The twitching in your third eye, the frog in your throat, the pain in your heart. All key indicators that's asking you to look at yourself and how powerful you are, yeah? Talk about yourself in a way that is conscious. I feel positive when I feel negative when I love this is good for me. And the only way we get to these places where we can have conversations about the self and identify the positives and negatives of our existence, of our presence, right, comes from self-discovery. It comes from you going, right, I need to be alone. I need to be comfortable to be with me. I need to hear my thoughts. I need to see my visions. I need to draw and dream and think and believe. I need to find me. It's ridiculous. Everyone on the right goes, what do you mean you need to find you? You're not lost. You're right there. All right, go back to the psyop you came from, motherfucker, and choose not to embrace the status quo of humanity. Too much for you. Controversial AF. But there is a belief system out there that there is a lot going on internally. The quantum psychology of the conversation is important because we are so molecular internally. And there is so much fluidity within us that should be embraced from the left to the right. Yeah? That spectrum that we speak about from a sociological standpoint, it also exists internally. Through meiosis and mitosis, right? Through red blood cells and white blood cells. Through biotechnology. Yeah? It's evolving into AI. That's why I'm here speaking on it from now. Because we've got a segue between the on and offline. The cyborgs of humanity are indeed rising. We must be ready. So I've just gone on today and tapped in on different areas. I didn't go deep, okay? Is there any deepness that we should have gone into here? Because I glazed over much conversation. Just food for thought today. But when it comes to the power of self, how do you go about finding it? What are you doing? When have you last tried to not only assess how much power you have over yourself? I say that to say this because we need examples here. Depression, unhappiness, a lack of fulfillment, no elevation or momentum in life, a lack of self-improvement, confusion, never a time alone, insecurities, fears, overwhelm, mental health problems, a lack of human flourishing, a lack of purpose, a lack of mission, low quality of life, no life satisfaction, struggles, burden, toxic relationships, back and forth in low vibration. If that accounts to any aspect of your life, and ideally, if you're living correctly, this should be on flux, like the Wheel of Fortune in Tarot and the Chariot and the Justice card. We are always cycling through these different things, the Hangman card, We're always going through change. So we're not going to act like you get to this epitome of awesomeness and life is great and you are the master of the self and there is not much more to be done. Because that's not true. There are much more pyramids beyond Maslow's. Let's go and speak to Hegel about that. Hegel will tell you there is more to be done. Yeah? So we keep going, we keep journeying. But what have you learned so far? And are you reflecting on that? Are you sitting with that? Are you pushing yourself? And it's a bit intensive for me to say that because some people just cannot bear the thought of this kind of work. But you've got to understand, a comfort zone is a very dirty place. When you're busy and you're working and you're doing stuff, your house looks gorgeous, right? Everything's clean in the perfect position. But when the weekend comes, or you take a vacation, or you stop working or moving or challenging yourself and being in a more accelerated speed force, you reduce the accelerated motion and you become comfortable, you lie on the sofa, eat a bag of crisps, watch TV, you binge watch Netflix. Now 2 days have gone, it's the weekend, and you're there. The place is a tip, you haven't washed any dishes, there's crumbs all over the floor, there's crumbs all over your clothes, you've got stains all over your t-shirt, you haven't done your hair, you smell like shit. You're comfortable. Too comfortable. And that's okay when we have a weekend. Thank you, Psy-Up gods, for creating that in the calendar, right? Let's not start talking about calendar conversations. Should we come back and do the power of the calendar and dive through the different calendars across space and time? Because that's going to take the whole of eternity, isn't it? But either way, some people live like that every day. Every day they don't move off the sofa eating chips. The house looks like shit. They don't clean up. They're not positive. They're not motivated. And that's reality. And that is when comfort is a dirty place, And that's why being uncomfortable is really, really important. And that's when it brings up that loneliness. That's when it identifies layers of abuse that you're throwing at someone else or that's coming towards you. That identifies whether or not you're following fashion or you're being clouty. That identifies where you are at on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But not only that, it really talks about that force and that accelerated motion and exactly how aligned you are to the second law. Yeah? Not only that, is it a game or is it not a game? Is it a simulation? Is it not? Are you classically conditioned? Why the fuck are you still binge watching Netflix? The easiest way to identify if someone's classically conditioned, in my opinion, to a high degree in a way that's just awful, but this is an ego point from me on the way out the door. How are we all watching? Not me, you. Why are all... I don't know you actually. Some of you. Why are people watching the Netflix specials where the conversation is totally out of sync because they're running the right translated audio over the top of it? I'm neuro as fuck. This was shot in Germany. This is originally a German thing. This is originally an Italian thing. This is originally a very different language. And you're running English on top of this, and nothing's in sync because clearly they're speaking a total different language and their mouths are moving to the words of their language, and to me that's destabilizing to my mental health. That doesn't make sense. This is a glitching this show's on glitch. Like, why would I watch this? Like I would rather watch it in its original language. And that is the problem with me, maybe, because I don't know that language, but I can't watch it and hear the overlay because I can now see the back end, and I'm like, well, that's not even linked to that. That needs to be turned up. That needs to be turned down. That's 2 seconds too fast. That's 2 seconds too slow. That's not even the right wording. Like, switch to that language. Don't know what you're saying now, but I'll rather watch it because at least the language is correct and your lips are moving in sync with the language it's destined for. And that never used to be a problem in the past. But now Netflix have got so sloppy at doing this, it shows there's a high level of, a high percentile of the population seem to be totally so fucking psyoped that it's just a normal thing to them. And they don't even know that there's an overlay of translation on the whole movie. And I'm like I've had conversations like, you lot, this isn't weird to you because look at the mouths moving. They're not saying this because this is a different language. And they're like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, oh, I'm so high on the spectrum. It's crazy. I can't watch it. It actually destabilizes me. It's like, this is wrong. It's like fraud, corruption. Like, why are we doing this? Like, you want me to watch this for an hour, but the audio's not even linked to the fucking image correctly. Flick it to the original language. Now, there's some amazing Japanese stuff out there, Asian stuff, real hardcore Asian movies on Netflix. This is probably about a year ago I last checked. I was really wanting to watch something, and the voiceover, the English translation was so disgusting. I just couldn't, and I was devastated because I really wanted to watch it, and I started watching it in that language, but it was just so irritating because I had already been thrown off by the correct language. So we sidetrack, but that's just an example of one neural difference that for me is a nightmare, yeah? But for others, it's just an everyday reality. So what are the factors in this game called life that are acceptable to you and not a bother to you, but also unbearable? And that shows you where you're at, yeah? That helps you identify your degrees of freedom, the derivatives that you have. And it's also really important when we have these conversations to identify your negative traits and your positive traits, yeah? We're going to come back and we're going to dive into empaths. There's a lot I want to discuss, specifically about my journey as an empath. It's been really, really hard, but for a reason, because I wouldn't have been able to evolve to where I'm at today if I didn't really suffer. If I didn't really go through the struggle of what it meant to overly see and be overly empathic, then I wouldn't be able to help in the way I will in the future and now, you know, because so many empaths don't realise that the energy that they're exhibiting at times are the energy of the other. Yeah, that's why being alone is so important for an empath. You're picking up on another person's energy and you're feeding them. And they are aware that that's their vibration, but they're never going to say that outrightly or loudly to you because they're the ones suppressing that, yeah? But you're open and you're forthcoming and you're empathic. And that's even worse when you're in the midst of a narcissist because they're going to use you and they're going to laugh at you behind your back, or they're going to look at you directly and laugh at you while you overgive sympathetically while they know they're violating you. And that's their true internal compass. Some people will see that's their true internal compass that you're exuding, but others won't even know that that's them because they'll never acknowledge that they have those heavier traits, right? And then also, as an empath, you have the ability to flip because you can be super narcissistic if you wanted to because you're empathic. So if you're dating a narcissist, you're looking face on a narcissist and you're an empath, you can mirror that vibration back, right? But the difference is empaths feel, yeah? So you're sensitive to that. You wouldn't want to hurt another person. There's this, and we can talk about dark empaths and light empaths too. A lot more to be discussed with that because I wouldn't want to sing it from the rooftops and people can use empathy in a really manipulative way, right? We want to talk about gaslighting as well, gaslighting techniques and how that is really, really a signifier of just a lot of the natural behaviours. And that comes from the side. That's not real. That's not possible. That's pseudoscience. That's conspiracy. No way. But you know it's true. Imagine the government tell you that's not real and that's conspiracy, but they know that's classified and they can't say it. They're gaslighting the population. But they've got no choice sometimes. That's one example, and that's me now just advocating for the government to lie to you about classified information. Who have I become? My goodness. But do you get it? And in different situations, certain people don't want to let you know their classified self. That part of the self is classified. Right? Fair enough. Fair enough, but don't show up to me with fraudulent information, right? Or incorrect keys, because that's not I want truth. Yeah? And that's also a thing as well growing up. It's like, if you're not really happy and you don't want to be in a situation and you're not in a good mood, don't go. Don't show up. Don't present yourself as being happy and bubbly and in this high vibration when you're not. Stay at home. Like, I'm not coming out, guys. I don't want to, just don't feel it. I'm not in that vibe. But others, especially when you're young and you're at 20s, I'll go out, I'll party, I'll turn up. But that's not how you feel inside. There's something going on inside of you. You're off. That's why you're drinking more when you're out. That's why you're more likely to end up hooking up with a random person that you don't know. That's why you're dating all these people or doing this or doing that or taking these drugs, because you're not resolving that feeling that you have. You're suppressing it or swerving the inner work. Yeah? And the truth of the matter is, 2 examples to use on the way out as well is, you know when fat people think that they can eat in secret and no one will know, right? They're going to know. They're going to find out. Because it's going to go to your cheeks. It's going to go to your double chin. It's going to go to your belly. It's going to go to your thighs. I'm talking from experience here. You think, do you know what? I'm just going to binge eat some stuff today. I'm not feeling great. I'm just going to stay in bed and eat crisps. And cake. No one will know. It's just me and by myself. It's private. It's not a big deal. I'm going to get takeaway. Massive mukbang. Fuck it. But they're going to know. It's going to show up in your fucking aura. Physically as matter. Solidified matter. Now fat. Yeah? The fat suit you're wearing has now been inflated. Yeah? Come on, guys. But not only that, I've now just lost my point because that was meant to link towards something else, wasn't it? The second one, the inner work, isn't it? We can see if you do the inner work or not, because the inner work pays dividends. The inner work changes your life, yeah? Your mental health, your emotional well-being, your evolution, your net worth, yeah? Your personality, your presence, your purpose, your fulfillment in life, your life journey, yeah? We can see you. We can see you if you're growing or not. So you could act like this and act like that, but the truth of the matter is we're all moving or not moving. Some people walk on the spot, some people run around the world, yeah? We're all different, but there's no escaping it, because the same way we can see that you're overweight, right? Like the whole collective of I'm big boned, I don't eat a lot of food. Impossible. I don't eat. This just fat just appeared out of here magically. Okay. We're not going to get into it because that's the power of the self that you need to master. I'm not going to tell you that all that excess fat on your body came from somewhere, right? And I love to eat and I'm overweight, so I can own that narrative. But once again, that's self-awareness. That's because the power of the self is rich inside of me, because I desire to know me and understand me, right? And I desire to be opaque about all aspects of me, yeah? And that is the journey we should be going on, because once again, if you don't do the inner work, you stay at that job for 20 years. You stay at that job for 30 years. No promotion, no raise, no real acceleration. Or you can even get a promotion and a raise. You make it to the top of the chain, you're just sitting there. Yeah? You got to do the work. You have to do the work. And that's inner work. Qualifications, you studying anymore? Are you learning new skills? Are you reading any books? Are you working on your net worth? Are you investing wisely? Are you saving money? Are you improving your relationships? Are you getting rid of toxic relationships? Yeah? Are you learning? It's also the ideology, right, of some people have been in relationship after relationship after relationship. Every year, every 2 years, every 6 years, every 5 years, every 4 years, you just get a new relationship. Never spent any real time being alone. You're just in a relationship. And then you've got someone else, doesn't really get into relationships. They've had one long-term relationship for the last 10 years. Let's do a spectrum as we're on the way out. Someone who's in a relationship all the time, just anytime they break up, they'll get into a new one. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, whatever. New relationship. Once the old one breaks up. Another person in a relationship for 20 years solid, just keeps going in that one relationship. Then the other person who doesn't really get into relationships, but dates casually. Serial dater or occasional dater, but never really takes anyone up the aisle or gets really committed and serious with them. Right? That's a spectrum of difference, and there's reasons for all of these things. Right? Now, the person in the centre who's been in a relationship for 20 years, they have a stabilised construct of that relationship. We can talk about health or not within that, but we can identify that this is a stable construct where there is regime and regimen and a classical condition that has worked for 20 years, right? A system, a programme, an approach, a game theory that has been locked in, and they're happy to stick with that and more than likely will after 20 years of doing something. But a lot of divorces are coming out more frequently that appear to be like really long term. Right? Crazy. And they really start to hate each other after 20 years. You're like, what the fuck? How are you ending after 20 years and now you can't stand each other and now we're fighting over spousal support? My goodness, really? And then you've got the relationship where every single relationship that you're in is beautiful and amazing when you're in it. But then you leave and you're in another one. Then you leave and you're in another one. Then you leave and you're in another one. Those kind of relationships concern me the most, because it's like, are you learning anything? Are you learning anything? Because you've got the other person on the other side. I also go, are you learning anything? Yeah, and this is the polarity, because remember, there's a left and right within this, where people are learning about themselves in every relationship they get into. Relationships are beautiful. They're a way for you to see yourself, because you do merge with another in a relationship. So depending on who you date, you kind of, not so much you take on little characteristics or mannerisms or goofy shit. You do kind of have similar traits. You spend a lot of time with that person. You have inside jokes. You do dumb, stupid stuff together. Or you have this loving, tender nature or ways of going or being with that person that's unique to them. They really like this, so you do a lot more of that with them. They love this sport, so you end up getting into sports because of them. You end up eating this food all the time because of them, right? But on that note, that's the beautiful side. On the other side, if you're not in a relationship or not enough, or you're not trying, you're not experiencing that. But are you diving into the self? Are you learning more and more about you and what you need? Are you assessing what does or doesn't work for you in a relationship? Are you honing your skills and craft for the one? You know, I like these ideologies. And I like to think that we all exist on this spectrum, because there's relationships in our life that we've had for 20 years, right? All of us. With someone, surely, in our lives, right? Even at least 16, or whoever raised us. There's a lot of unstable homes and families. But a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, there's relationships you've had for 20 years. There's relationships you've had for one night. Not everyone does one night stands, I will say. But no offence to anyone who does. There's one nighters over there. There's single and celibate people in their 30s and 40s. I mean, celibate virgins, 40-year-old virgins. Virgin Island is a TV series that I haven't watched yet, that we should probably all go and watch this weekend, because there's virgins talking about their experience. So it's understanding the spectrum of this, because in every single one of these things or one of these examples, the power of the self is key. If you're alone and with no one, but you're studying the self, that's fantastic. Because when you are ready, and when the time does come, you will align to someone who is more open to self-discovery. And you know who you are and how to be in a relationship. You have to know you to be in a relationship. But then on the other hand, the serial relationshiper who's always in a relationship, and their relationship's perfect until it's not anymore, and then it's over and it's gone, and then they start all over again, they don't seem to be taking a moment to find themselves as an independent. But they are taking the time to find themselves with someone else over and over again. Is that a negative or a positive? Depends on their own psyche. Depends on their own classical conditioning. Depends on their own systemization. Depends on their own game theory, doesn't it? Same with that person in the middle lane. Would they be better if they left this person, but they've got this beautiful house and these 4 kids already, so they're going to stay in this 20-year relationship? Is that for they've been cheated on 4 times in that marriage, but they're going to stay? Is that okay? Is that not okay? Once again, that depends on the power of the self, because it's all internal. That's the point here. So whether you're left or right or in the middle, if you can really ground the power that is you, and that's cognitively, because we're not talking about anything radical in any other way other than your perception and you perceiving yourself in all things, knowing that we are all one and the same, because there is this fine line between that narcissism and that empath ideology again, where when you focus on yourself, me, self-awareness, spiritual awakening, consciousness, if you are looking at self so intently, but you can't see self in everybody else and still find that equilibrium between me and other, and still be empathic and one with the rest of the world that is separate to you, then once again you're just framed within an egoic standpoint of self, and that's not what we want. We want to go underneath that iceberg when we talk about Freud. We want to dive into that unconscious mind when we talk about Jung, you know? So it's about understanding the layers to the self, how many different pieces and parts of you there are, and what you're like when you're with a lover, with a brother, with a sister, with a mother, with an uncle, with an auntie, with a best friend, with a cousin, with your kids, with your husband, with your wife, with every single person, with your colleagues, with your best colleague, with your best friend, with your manager. Yeah? It's different. It's worth understanding why, and it's worth understanding what vibrations lift you up and make you more aligned to that I think therefore I am, versus that takes away from that feeling. And that internal compass of I'm satisfied with life. I know me. I'm satisfied with what I'm giving to humanity. That's where we go, I want to do more. I want to seek more. I want to be more. I want to find me. I want to go on a solo journey, or I want to go on a new journey with this person in love. I want to date this person. I want to be with you. Should we be together? Should we be committed? Because then that brings in this layer of learning. Yeah, because you can go into a relationship and stay in relationships all your life and learn what it means to be a giver, to be a piece to somebody else's ecosystem, circumference, radius, zone of proximity, however you want to look at it, right? That viscopiscus ideology. Most people would rather live in a viscopiscus, yeah? But other people really prefer that singularity, yeah? And it's about understanding the ratio between that singularity and that viscopiscus that does come together and create wholeness. And then within that viscopiscus, you can look at the little, the lines and the dividers and the fragmentation, right? The percentiles that exist there of what it means for you to be one in union with another versus those independent percentiles that just represent you still. And that's really important, yeah? The seeds of life matter, guys, yeah? So I hope that brought you some light and intelligence today, and more importantly, food for thought. Feel free to share more in the comments. Any topic we dived into today and you want me to dive deeper into that, using a lot more quantum psychology, then pull up. Let's do that right in the comments. And I'll be back soon with more. Love and light.